The river's journey and the adventure of Poohsticks. Once upon a time, deep in the Hundred Acre Wood, there was a stream that flowed through the heart of the forest. When it was young, the stream would skip, hop, and sparkle as it traveled, eager to explore the world. But as the years passed, it grew wiser and moved more slowly, knowing exactly where it was going. "There is no need to hurry," the stream said to itself. "We will get there someday." High up in the forest, all the little streams still danced and rushed, eager to find their way before it was too late. But this grown-up stream was in no rush at all. It flowed calmly, without a care in the world. Near the edge of the forest, the stream had grown so wide it had almost become a river. And right where the river met the forest, there was a wooden bridge, a bridge wide enough for all of Pooh's friends to cross. The bridge had wooden rails on either side, and Christopher Robin, being tall enough, could just lean over the top rail to watch the river slip quietly beneath him. Pooh, on the other hand, could only reach the bottom rail, so he would lie down on the bridge, peeking his head under to watch the water flow by. As for Piglet and Roo, they were much too small to reach even the bottom rail, so they would lie down flat on their tummies, side by side, watching the river as it lazily slipped away. One crisp, sunny day, Pooh was on his way to the bridge. As he strolled along, surrounded by towering fir trees, he started to feel singy. With all the little fir cones lying around him, he picked one up and stared at it, deep in thought. "This is a very nice fir cone," Pooh said to himself, "and something ought to rhyme with it." But no matter how hard he thought, he couldn't find a rhyme that fit. Then, suddenly, a little rhyme popped into his head. "Here is a mystery about a little fir tree. All says it's his tree, and Kanga says it's her tree." Pooh murmured. "That doesn't make sense. Kanga doesn't even live in a tree." But before he could think more about it, Pooh reached the bridge and, trip, he accidentally stumbled, dropping the fir cone from his paw. He watched as it tumbled into the river and floated slowly under the bridge. "Oh, bother," Pooh said as he leaned over the edge, watching the fir cone slip away. But instead of running back to get another, Pooh decided to lie down and watch the river. It was such a peaceful day, and the sight of the river made Pooh feel calm and relaxed. As he lay there, Pooh suddenly spotted his fir cone floating out from under the bridge on the other side. "That's funny," Pooh thought. "I dropped it on one side, and it came out on the other." He hurried back to the edge of the bridge to grab another fir cone. This time, he wanted to see if the same thing would happen again. To Pooh's delight, it did. So, he fetched 2 fir cones and dropped them both in, eager to see which one would come out first. One did, but Pooh couldn't tell if it was the one he had been rooting for. To solve the mystery, Pooh got 1 big fir cone and 1 small fir cone. He dropped them in and waited. The big one floated out first, just as he had guessed. Pooh was so excited that he played the game all afternoon, dropping fir cones and seeing which ones came out first. By the time he went home for tea, Pooh had won 36 times and lost 28, which made him feel very proud. And that was how the game of Poohsticks was invented, a game that Pooh and his friends would play for many days to come. Instead of using fir cones, though, they started using sticks because they were easier to keep track of. One particularly sunny afternoon, Pooh, Piglet, Rabbit, and Roo decided to play Poohsticks together. They stood at the top of the bridge, each holding a stick. "Go!" shouted Rabbit, and they all dropped their sticks into the river at the same time. Then, they rushed to the other side of the bridge, leaning over the edge to see whose stick would come out first. But the river was feeling lazy that day, and it didn't hurry to bring their sticks around. Roo, eager as always, wriggled and bounced on the spot. "I see mine. No, wait, there it is. No, it isn't. Can you see yours, Piglet?" "I think I see it," said Piglet nervously. "But maybe I don't. Oh, wait. Yes. I think I see it now." "I see it too," said Pooh, peering over the edge. "A big gray one. It's coming this way." Piglet beamed. "I'm winning." But just as they leaned in to get a closer look, Pooh realized something. "Oh no, that's not a stick. It's Eeyore." Sure enough, floating beneath the bridge, with his legs sticking straight up in the air, was Eeyore. "Eeyore!" everyone cried out in surprise. Well, of course it's me, said Eeyore, sounding rather unbothered by the fact that he was in the river, floating along slowly. Eeyore, what are you doing? Rabbit asked, trying to hold back a laugh. I'll give you 3 guesses, said Eeyore in his usual gloomy voice. Leaping from branch to branch like a squirrel?
Wrong.
Digging holes in the ground? Wrong again. Waiting for someone to help me out of this river?
Right.
Give Rabbit time, and he'll always get the answer. But, Eeyore, Pooh said, sounding concerned, what can we do to help you?
Thank you, Pooh, Eeyore replied.
A very kind question. I'm sure anything you try will be quite interesting. Roo, meanwhile, was fascinated by Eeyore floating in the water. He's going round and round, Roo exclaimed, jumping with excitement. I like turning round, said Eeyore with a sigh. It's much harder than swimming in a straight line, you know. I can swim too, said Roo proudly. Not in circles, though. Eeyore gave a tiny smile. Not everyone can swim in circles, Roo. It's a very special skill. The friends stood quietly, each trying to think of a plan. At last, Pooh had an idea. I know. What if we throw stones into the water? The waves will push Eeyore to the bank. Rabbit nodded. Good thinking, Pooh. Yes, Eeyore replied dryly. Just what I need. A nice shower of stones. Very refreshing. Well, Pooh said, we won't throw them at you. We'll throw them around you. Eeyore sighed again. Just let me know when the wave-making begins. Pooh picked up the biggest stone he could carry. I'm going to drop it right here, Eeyore. That way, I won't hit you. Eeyore continued to spin in the river. I do like spinning. Rabbit took charge. Pooh, on my command. Eeyore, get ready. Eeyore turned lazily. Oh, I'm ready. Now, called Rabbit. Pooh dropped his stone with a mighty splash. For a moment, everyone held their breath. Then, slowly but surely, Eeyore started to drift toward the riverbank. With a cheer, Pooh, Rabbit, Piglet, and Roo raced to the bank and pulled Eeyore out of the water. Oh, Eeyore, you're soaking wet, Piglet exclaimed, feeling Eeyore's soggy fur. Eeyore gave a little shake, sending water droplets everywhere. Yes, Piglet. That's what happens when one spends an afternoon inside a river. Rabbit smiled proudly. That was a good idea of ours, wasn't it, Eeyore? Getting you out of the river like that. Eeyore gave Rabbit a sideways glance. Is that what you think happened, Rabbit? I seem to recall being hushed to the bank by a stone, not a wave. Piglet leaned in to whisper to Pooh. I think your idea was a very good idea, Pooh. Pooh smiled. Thank you, Piglet. I'm glad someone thought so. By now, Roo was bouncing with excitement. How did you fall in the river, Eeyore? Did somebody push you? Eeyore gave a long sigh. Somebody bounced me. Everyone gasped. Tigger, they cried together. But before Eeyore could answer, they heard a familiar noise behind them. Bounding out from the forest came none other than Tigger himself.
Hello, everybody,
Tigger said, bouncing up to the group. Rabbit stepped forward importantly. Tigger, did you bounce Eeyore into the river? Tigger looked a bit sheepish. Well, I didn't exactly bounce him. I coughed. And maybe I was a bit too close to Eeyore when I did. Eeyore raised an eyebrow. A cough, Tigger? Really? Tigger shifted his paws nervously. It wasn't a bounce. Just a boff. Just then, Christopher Robin arrived, smiling brightly.
What's going on? He asked.
It's like this, Christopher Robin, began Rabbit. Tigger, no, I didn't, interrupted Tigger. Well, anyhow, Eeyore began. There I was. Christopher Robin held up his hand, signaling for everyone to stop. I think, he said, smiling, we should all play Poohsticks. So, that's exactly what they did. And wouldn't you know it, Eeyore, who had never played before, won more times than anyone else. Roo, of course, fell in the river twice, the first time by accident, and the second time on purpose, because he saw Kanga coming to fetch him. As the sun set, the friends began to wander back home, one by one. Tigger and Eeyore left together, with Eeyore giving Tigger tips on how to win at Poohsticks. Christopher Robin, Pooh, and Piglet stayed behind on the bridge, watching the river slip quietly beneath them. Tigger's all right, really, said Piglet, leaning against the rail. Of course he is, Christopher Robin replied with a grin. Everybody is really, said Pooh thoughtfully. That's what I think. Christopher Robin smiled and patted Pooh on the head. You're absolutely right, Pooh. And with that, they all stood together, quietly watching the peaceful river flow beneath them, knowing that in the 100 Acre Wood, everything always turned out just right in the end.